Okay, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to See It, a show about movies and stuff. This is episode 26. Thank you guys so much for sticking around with me. Sorry I'm getting on a little bit late, and I'm also sorry that I was not able to join you guys last week. I was unable to make it because of some other obligations that came in that I needed to take care of. But I'm happy to be back with you today to talk about the news, talk about the box office, and all the things that we love about movies. The chat is open, so if you have anything you want to share throughout the show, any questions about the state of the industry, any questions about a certain film, please feel free to share those in the comments section, and I'll go ahead and read it out and go ahead and talk about those things that you want to talk about, because this show is for the movie fans, the cinephiles that are out there, everybody who wants to be lovers of cinema. So I'm going to jump right into the box office breakdown. Yes, we're talking about box office weekend. Unfortunately, the box office has not been doing too good the last few weeks. Of course, you still have Barbie and Oppenheimer that are dominating the box office weekends, but those movies came out a few weeks ago, so we should have some new players now, and it just has not happened. It's currently of the last August 11th through the 13th, we had $108 million domestic, compared to just 2 weeks ago, we were at $209 million domestic, and then when Oppenheimer and Barbie dropped, that was a $300 million box office weekend. So we have been seeing ebbs and flows. This last week was definitely an ebb. We can tell that we are at the end of the summer. Go through this real quick. Barbie is our number one movie this week. $33 million in box office, lands with the number one spot. Worldwide, it's made $1.187 billion. This movie is the second most money-making film of the year, just right behind Super Mario Brothers, and it looks like it's probably going to end up passing Super Mario Brothers. What a feat coming from Barbie. New Barbie was going to be big. I had it in my top 5 for the summer. I did not think it would be this huge. It's got a huge international audience as well as a huge domestic. In fact, the splits are about even, about $525 million, $526 million of that $1.1 billion is coming domestic, so the rest of it's coming international. Huge news. Margot Robbie's actually, because of the incentives of her contract, is going to get $50 million off of this movie. That's definitely going to make her the highest paid actress of the year. She'll probably be the highest paid actor, period, of the year, because of what Barbie has done. And kudos to her. She did it. She was phenomenal in the movie. She carries the movie. Great supporting cast, obviously, but I don't think this movie gets made without her and without Greta Gerwig together. Congratulations to both of them and the whole team. Oppenheimer is number 2 for the week. $18.8 million for the weekend domestic. Worldwide, it has made $648 million off of its $100 million budget. So again, kudos to Christopher Nolan. He was able to make it a fantastic, visually stunning movie with $100 million. That shows how focused he is, how disciplined he is with the money that he's given to him, because there's been movies like we've seen, for example, Fast X, where the budget balloons to like $300 million for absolutely no reason, that Fast X cost 3 times as much to make as Oppenheimer did, and Oppenheimer looks so much better. Now, granted, there's not as many special effects as you would think. There's just one big explosion, but a lot of the cinematography's gorgeous. I mean, they really do their thing with that movie. I have my problems with it. I talked about those earlier, but I mean, let's give credit where it's due. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comes in at number 3. Number 3, Mutant Mayhem. They have made $72 million domestic, $94 million worldwide in the last 3 weeks it's been out. $70 million was the budget. So it is currently tracking to lose money. I'm pretty surprised about that. I thought that the domestic would be much higher, since it's the only real true kids movies that's out there, and also it's the best kids movies, teen, preteen movie, even younger, that we've had since Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So I thought that it would make a lot more money than what it did sitting here in August. There isn't really any much competition around it for the parameter of, in terms of the target audience. Maybe people are just moving out at this point. Maybe parents spend all their money on Little Mermaid and Spider-Man and Teenage Kraken and all those things, and like, hey man, summer's over, we can't do this anymore. So it's a shame too, because that movie's really good. Meg 2, The Trench, has made $54 million domestic. You see that's number 4 with $12 million, almost $13 million this week. Made $258 million worldwide, which means that over $200 million of its $258 million budget. I'm assuming revenue is coming from overseas. I'm assuming China, they love a good kaiju, big monster. Is really pushing that movie, and has actually got it it's going to be in the green. $139 million budget. It's going to make that back plus some. The Last Voyage of the Demeter was our big reveal this week. It was our big release, and it only made $6.5 million. That's concerning. $45 million budget. So it's not an expensive movie to make. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later to give you my thoughts on it. But I'm surprised that it was so low. I thought that it would at least get over the Meg hump domestically, but it did not. To round out the top 10, Haunted Mansion comes in at a little under $6 million. Talk to Me, it's the only horror that's still left, $5 million. It's made $36 million off a $4.5 million budget. Once again, horror movies are in the game of just bringing in racks and racks of cash for its production companies and distributors. Talk to Me is no different. Sound of Freedom, the incel crazy movie that has a lot of lies about sex trafficking and is very dangerous. Well, it continues just to make money hand over fist. It's a little bit under $5 million for this weekend at the number 8 spot, but it's made $172 million on a $14.5 million budget. That's crazy. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 is number 9 for a little bit of $4.5 million. It has made $522 million on a $291 million budget. It is officially a flop. It might make its money and turn back green, but I had predicted that Oppenheimer will be the flop of the big three that were coming out so close between Barbie, Oppenheimer, and Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible just completely tanks. It didn't really even do that great for the weekend it came out, because it came out the week before Oppenheimer and Barbie. Really, really sad, because it's probably my, I would say, third or fourth favorite movie this summer. I really, really enjoyed that movie. Indiana Jones and Dollar Destiny, not so much. I liked it, but the nostalgia didn't really work. It made just a little bit less than $1 million, and it has made $375 million worldwide on a $294 million budget. And so, of course, that has lost money too. So, just a reminder for the viewers, when I say that the revenues exceed the budgets, but yet I call it in the red, remember that movies have to make at least 2, a lot of times 3 times as much money in revenues as it did for the budget, because the budget doesn't account for all of the funds that they're spending on marketing and those types of things to get the movie produced. And so that's why they're flops and they're in the red. So that's the box office breakdown for you today. Let's talk a little bit about the news. So first, a couple of strike updates. We have A big one coming from SAG-AFTRA. They're no longer going to be approving any more indie films to be made that have WGA contracts, Writer Guild of America contracts, who are on strike and they are refusing their services from any film, as well as if they're shot in the U.S. So they've really restricted what type of indie film can be made with SAG-AFTRA actors. This is in response to a lot of the criticisms coming from inside of the union. You know, Sarah Silverman has been very vocal about this. A few other actors have been very vocal about this, about approving these indie films to get made. And the reason being is because a lot of times, outside of really A24, which will do its own distribution, these indie filmmakers and indie production companies will sell these films for distribution to the major five studios, or the AMPTP studios, which are part of that association that is that they're currently striking. So, for example, if the indie film that gets made, but then they go ahead and sell it for distribution on Amazon, well, it doesn't really help anything. It's undermining the strike. So, with that being said, huge news. They are going to continue to allow the films that they've already gave waivers for to move forward, because those indie films have already coughed up a lot of money already to start production, and you know, you don't want to go back on your word type of thing. But anything moving forward, they will not approve. I actually hope that this strike is going to be coming to an end here in the next month. So hopefully the writers and the actors get what they need. And the reason I think that is because the Writers Guild of America and the studios are negotiating it, and the studios came with a counter offer for the WGA to consider. In the counter offer, they had some language about AI and AI protections. There was some language about being much more transparent with viewership numbers and how that affects the residuals that writers get. It sounds like it's not nearly enough for what the writers are looking for, but it is a step in the right direction. And hopefully this continues to get talks moving forward. And basically, a lot of the things that the Writer Guild of America is striking for are the same as the SAG actors. So whatever, if WGA gets their deal done first, it's going to basically be a template for what we see for SAG-AFTRA's negotiations down the line. I think WGA will end their strike first, or they'll end them both at the same time after both get what they want, so they can continue to leverage each other one way or the other. I don't see SAG-AFTRA ending their strike before WGA. That would be kind of weird to happen, especially since SAG is asking for a bit more than what WGA is asking for. So once again, they're looking to get, the writers are hoping to get the writing rooms picked up in terms of more staff, so staff's not being under overworked and underpaid. They're fighting for residuals. They're fighting for copyright protection of their work to not be used by AI. The use of AI in writing films and TV shows, period, or cleaning up films, those types of things. They're fighting for AI just not to be involved in the creative process at all, for the most part, from my understanding. And so, they're looking for guaranteed contracts for these shows that they'll just pull, that's been being pulled from streamers after an episode or two. They'll just fail them, and you know, it's the contracts are shorter, so they're looking for more guarantees there. And the SAG actors are doing the same thing. They're fighting against the use of AI. They're fighting for more residuals, so that increase in pay, so people can basically live in California where they have to work, or New York where they have to work, right? So, yeah, those are the strike updates. The other issue that I want to talk about real quick is the issues with Blue Beetle. Now, Blue Beetle back in July, they were projecting that it was only going to make $17 million its opening weekend. They've bumped that up to 30. I don't understand why this film is trending downward, especially since we haven't really seen the big August movie just yet. Blue Beetle is set to come out It's going up against Strays, the new Will Ferrell Kevin Hart film, but I don't know. It seems like, especially since this is the first Latino superhero that's going to be a part of the DC universe, that they should be pushing that a lot harder than what they do, because you have not only just a Latino superhero but a Latino family. I don't understand why they can't recreate a little bit of the magic that Black Panther did in terms of really trying to get a base of Latino support for this film. I don't get that. I haven't seen them promote the movie that way. I haven't seen really great social media campaigns. Now, granted, it's hard for them to promote anything now because of the SAG strike. You have no actors to promote this film. And so that's an issue. You have no influencers to promote the film either, because influencers that have SAG contracts or are looking for SAG contracts, they can't promote it either. So maybe that's the issue in terms of all they can do is do trailers, and they don't know how to cut this trailer in a way that's going to bring that audience in. But it's expecting to bomb. I don't know if the movie's good or not. I haven't seen it yet. I'll let you know, of course, as soon as I do. But it's expecting to bomb, and that's kind of sad to me. Let's see. Real quick, I'm going to go kind of lightning around about some movies I have not had a chance to talk to you guys about. The first one is Disney's Haunted Mansion. I didn't really get a chance to talk about that much. Just not beat around the bush, just to skip it. This movie, I love Lakeith Stanfield, I love Owen Wilson. Tiffany Haddish is funny when she needs to be. Danny DeVito is great in this film. It's just so poorly edited. It's very lazy factory. It's like it was just pushed through a factory and gave us like a Always Save brand of a film here. And seemed like there was corners cut. It seemed like there wasn't a lot of oversight. There was a time in the film where Danny DeVito literally called Lakeith Stanfield's character, and his name in the movie was Ben, I want to say. He literally called him Keith in the movie. There are scenes where you see Rosario Dawson's character. She has lipstick on her teeth. And they're like, y'all didn't like catch that and reshoot and clean that up. It's just not really done with any type of care. And I hate to say that, because like I said, the cast was fun. The story was so it was muddled, but I wish that they would have gave a little bit more care to the actual production and craft of the film. This is a skip it, and the only reason it's getting 2 stars is because I like the cast, but it really has not that much going for it after that. The other movie I didn't get a chance to talk to you guys about was Meg 2. Meg 2 breaks my heart. I loved the first Meg. I thought that it was a fun, silly ocean flick with a huge shark that was just a killer. He was scary. He was terrifying. Jason Statham was able to cook. You really bought into his character and his connection with the characters around him. There was none of that magic in this one. It was they brought in these human villains that brought nothing to the table for this film. It was just a distraction. The special effects were kind of cheesy and corny. I didn't really care for really anybody in this movie outside of Jason Statham, and even he was forgettable. There are points and times that I didn't laugh, but for the most part, this is a skip it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is so fun, guys. Go see this film. I don't know why it's not doing well. It's a great time. You don't really even need a big IMAX screen to see. You can see it on a regular screen. You'll get the same effect. The animation style is so fun and cool. It's almost kind of like kind of stencil, color pencil, color crayon type of look to it. That's kind of also kind of 3D, and the strokes are moving with the animation, which is really cool. The Turtles are actually teenagers who want to go to high school and actually act like teenagers and not like people in their mid-20s or turtles in their mid-20s. They reimagine the the origin story, the way that modernize it. It's tongue in cheek. It's funny, but it still pays homage to the original, which I really like. The story's great. It's just a really fun film. The voice acting phenomenal across the board. It's a little kiddie, but it's meant for kids. They're trying to make it. They're going to make a Nickelodeon show, I believe, off this. It'll be available on Paramount Plus, and make this whole property a thing. I'm hoping that continues to be the case, even though it's not doing well in the box office. Please, please, please. As you can tell from by the reviews, there's nothing really else out to see. If you're looking for something in August to see, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem has to be that movie. It is definitely a see it. I'll tell you what's not a see it. This junk right here, Heart of Stone, came out on Netflix on Thursday. I would say I went ahead and watched it, and I am so disappointed that Gal Gadot's agents can't get her better scripts. This script's terrible, and her last few films have just not been up to snuff. They just haven't. And it almost feels like she's taken on parts that Charlize Theron has already declined, or Jessica Chastain, or any of those women who could play action really fair. Zoe Saldana, they all declined it, and so it goes to Gal Gadot. And I don't know why, because Wonder Woman made her an A-lister and showed us what she can do. She's very likable in every film she's in. She's very physical, like you need to be at these types of movies. I feel like they're trying to put her in like this Angelina Jolie, early 2000s Salt, Tomb Raider type of space. And I think that she could do well in those, but she needs to be in better films. She just does. And so the writing, it's everything in here, this movie is just really subpar. So I don't really want to get into it because I'll be beating it up a little bit too much. But I just want Gal Gadot to get some better parts. And the final movie that just came out this weekend, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. So I thought this was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad either. It wasn't bad. I saw it. The main issue is that there's not really much character development. The movie is based off of like the first chapter of the book, the Dracula book. And so maybe they didn't have enough to pull from. I know that they're going to make this a series, or want to make this a series. Bram Stoker's Dracula, the first chapter, was about this voyage that transported Dracula to Europe, specifically England, right? And it just, the effects for, especially how much this movie costs, it looks pretty good. There are some decent scares in it. You don't really care about really any of these characters, so that's the issue, because if you don't care about the characters the way that they really, really are trying to get you to care about the characters, there's just not enough development. They jump too far to the hope for some sort of commitment to the characters before, something happens to them, and you just never get there. And to The Last Voyage of the Demeter's credit, a lot of horror movies have this issue. Especially straightforward horror that's not trying to be tongue-in-cheek or not trying to be meta or not trying to be funny. They're trying to play straight horror, and they want you to come into these characters before they die, basically, because people die. You just don't get there. And because of that, it drops down a bit. So those are my reactions to the most recent films. I'm not going to hold you. That's pretty much all I got. It's a pretty slow week. I will not be here next week because I'll be on vacation. So they'll see and show about movies and stuff next week. But the week after, we'll go ahead and do a summer recap. Thank you so much for continuing to support me. Visit BrianKnowsMovies.com to see some of my reviews. Visit TheKansasCityDefender.com. I'm writing for the Kansas City Defender right now as well. I'll continue to share on my social media, specifically my Facebook page, my threads, anywhere else I'm getting published for reviews. Thank you, and I will see you at the theaters next week.